Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. All the way up. I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up.
I got that video.
Had that made this morning.
Let's go. They got that in right in the nick of time. Hey, everybody stand up real quick. Everybody stand up. Everybody stand up. So, before we kind of get into intros, I'm gonna tell you a little bit of background on myself. Jake will do the same thing for himself. I just want you guys to close your eyes real quick. Just want you guys to get just engaged, shake off. You guys came from lunch. And I just want you guys to repeat after me here in just a moment, okay? Close your eyes. Everybody close your eyes. Just repeat after me. I am grateful.
I am grateful
that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now.
that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now.
That there's nowhere else in the world I'd rather be.
That there's nowhere else in the world I'd rather be.
I'm grateful for all the opportunities I've had in my life.
I'm grateful for all the opportunities I've had in my life.
I'm grateful for all the opportunities I'm going to have in my life.
I'm grateful for all the opportunities I'm going to have in my life.
I'm grateful for the fact that I'm in a vehicle
For the fact that I'm in a vehicle
that is the best in the world.
that is the best in the world.
That I can chase my dreams.
That I can chase my dreams.
That I can change lives.
That I can change lives.
That I can impact people.
That I can impact people.
That I'm going to impact people.
That I'm going to impact people.
All right, clap it up. Let's go. Look, man, I don't know about you guys, but I am just absolutely inspired, man. How amazing was Casey Ball and Dave Alred? Huh? Give it a clap for them.
Yeah.
How incredible is it the fact that we're able to be here right now, to be able to just level up in all areas of our lives right now, man. I'm absolutely inspired by the fact that I'm humbled that I have the opportunity to speak to you guys. And so my goal is if I can just impact one of you guys, give you guys a little bit of value that will allow you guys to, just dream bigger, get bigger, and reach your goals quicker, then I know, I'm doing the right thing here, guys. So I'm grateful to Danny. I'm grateful to Taylor for the opportunity to be able to speak and, kind of get really personal with you guys, man. Today, we want to give you guys some real practical just knowledge on how to blow up your teams. Real quick, who here runs sales teams? Who here is a business owner? Awesome. Are you guys, who here is in anything but solar? So it's all solar. Awesome. Okay.
No, it's a little bit.
It's mostly solar. So I just want to kind of get a good sense of the crowd who we're talking to. But man, the fact that you guys are all here right now, you guys are winners, man. You guys are winners, straight up. I think about, I heard a quote from a coach. He plays it. It's on ESPN all the time. He says, the only thing guaranteed in life, if you don't chase winning, is losing. And all of you guys are out here chasing winning, right? But what is winning, guys? What is winning? What is that? What is that to you? I know, the fact is winning for me is not being on top of the leaderboard every single month. It's not being the best solar sales company. It's not, being the top of, there's so many people that boast, oh, winning. We're that for me, the fact is records are meant to be broken. People are going to break your records, right? There's someone out there that's always going to do a little bit more, right? There's someone out there that's going to, break the company record, whatever, right? For me, winning, it's really personal. For me, winning is, having the courage to keep moving forward and get into solution mode, regardless of the obstacle that is put in front of you, regardless of the trauma that happens in your life. And I know for a fact that there's going to be things that happen to us in our lives, things that have happened to me in my lives that, man, has brought me to my knees, right? Having the courage to have the strength to get up, keep moving forward and chase your dreams and impact others around you, to me, that's fucking winning, man. That's winning. So the fact that all you guys are here investing in yourself, you guys are winners, man. So give yourselves a round of applause. So a little bit about background on me. So I've been in solar for 8 years, direct sales for 8 years. And, you know, I always say that this industry has done more for me than I could ever do for it. You know, you know, so the way that I give back to this industry is trying to impact and add value. You know, for me, you know, the thing that keeps me moving, it's not about, you know, it's not about making money. It's about impact. Okay. A lot of the guys on the stage talked a lot about that. They talked about impact a ton. And for me, impact is everything. Impact is everything. It's impact over income. You know, for me in my career, you know, back as a rep, you know, I remember when I was trying to figure out like how to like kind of get to that next level. There were so many people that inspired me in the industry that were doing more than me. There, you know, and I was like, what's the missing ingredient? What am I not doing that these other cats are doing, right? And what I noticed was I was only just focusing on my outcome. I was focusing on myself. It was selfish interest that I had. I was like, how, you know, I wanted to level up so I can make more money, right? So I could have this, I could have the fancy car, I can have all these things, right? But when my life completely changed was when I shifted my mindset to not about how much money I can make, but how many people can I impact? How many people can I impact? That's when everything started changing for me in my career. So, you know, blessed and humbled to have, you know, trained, managed, developed, you know, hundreds, if not thousands now of solar sales reps in my solar career. You know, I have the grace and opportunity to, you know, now develop other leaders. You know, I've developed leaders that are now developing other leaders and changing and impacting their lives, right? Duplication, that's when things get really fun, right? And so, you know, really exciting the fact that I'm like be able to be on this stage right now. It's humbling for me to be here in front of you guys. And so that's a little bit about me. You know, right now I'm the co-founder and president over at Voltaic. You might have heard of us. We're doing some pretty cool things. But you know, the people that move me are some of the people here in this room. You know, my why, I can't be here in front of you guys having the grace and opportunity to speak to you guys without, you know, guys like Bryce Falconer, David Ramos, Remy Levine, who's not here, you know, all the leaders, Chris Ortiz, Ty Tran, like all the people here, like I'm nothing without you. You guys are my team. I love you guys. They're one of my biggest whys. So clap it up for them for investing in themselves. So that's a little bit about me, guys. I'm going to pass it over to Jake now. Sorry, I get a little long-winded.
Yeah, I trained Nick, so
Yeah.
everything he said is basically a result of me. So, so yeah, no. Really quick background. I realize my mic is like super loud, but I've got 10 years in the solar game. Makes me pretty old in this game, but yeah, I've done everything from setting leads to knocking to just closing to DM and sales teams, run departments and companies of 200 installs a month. And then, we started Voltaic about 7 years ago. So we've been running a Blitz model now for the better part of a year and gone through a lot of ups and downs with it. A lot of tremendous success, though, and that's what we want to share with you today. So I want to get into content. I don't know how far behind schedule we are with the, the whole lunch thing, too. So we'll kind of keep it moving for you guys.
Okay, so guys, let's talk about the Blitz model. Why is blitzing important, right? Who here has ever gone on a sales blitz? Okay, great. I was hoping a lot of people raised their hand. Who hasn't gone on a sales blitz? Okay, good. So I'm speaking to a lot of you guys. Now we're gonna share a lot of content on different perspectives and different ways that you can blitz. We're gonna get super granular with you guys. So why is blitzing important? Well, number one, first and foremost, is production. Okay, production. So there's, I was sharing with the guy right before this, there's teams, like if you're anything like me, I'm a sprinter, right? I'm a sprinter. I'm not a long distance guy. Right? For me, if you give me something where I can just have intense focus, because I have ADHD, man, my mind will go over there real quick, right? If you give me a time where I can just focus, just high intense focus for a short amount of time, right? That's when I get the best results, right? And so for us, what we saw is, having that type of focus, it just, for teams in a blitz model production, I mean, you 10x your production, okay? So kind of a little background, before we started the blitz model, we've had markets in, Illinois, different places, big teams doing a lot of production, but for a single team in a specific area, we always kind of hit ceilings where we couldn't do more than like 70 or 80 sales in a month, right? And so what we saw once we started blitzing, we broke the barrier of triple digits really quickly for a team of 20 to 30 reps. You can do triple digits within a month. Okay, so production is the number one thing.
And maybe step back just a quick bit to kind of define what blitzing is, right? I mean, everyone seems to know what it is. A lot of you guys have done it, but how are we kind of defining it here? And that is effectively taking your team and sending them to a particular territory and having them focus just on production, solely on production. So with the goal of kind of taking your eyes off everything else. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that goes into the day-to-day, the trainings, the pipeline management, all that stuff. Blitzes are simply just about production, right? It's just about getting volume in your pipeline, right? So Nick talked about that part, but then retention. So what's another, obviously, a reason that we blitz, one of the major reasons that we blitz? Well, when you bring people into this business, those of you that are business owners, those of you that have been in the game for a while, you realize that it's difficult, right, to actually get launched, to get started. A lot of people don't make it past the first short period of time. Most of us are in a 1099 setting, which means you keep what you kill, but if you don't kill anything, you don't eat. So it's very difficult to get a lot of people who might otherwise be talented to stick with your company, with you, even if you have a good training system. Sometimes it's about, did they hit doors on the right day? Did they hit doors at the right time, right? Did they get the results in the short period of time that they needed to cover their cost so that they could see the bigger picture, right? And that doesn't always happen. So when you get increased production in a short period of time, you get increased retention, right? So it's a huge component of that. And if you can retain, you can grow, you can build, right? And so those individuals that are already producing, that want to scale up into leadership, well, now you have more reps that are bought into the cause, bought into the system because they're actually producing, right?
Right, and the third thing is your per rep average, right? So what we saw was that by having a focus of a blitz, whether it's 10 days or 14 days, it varies how long you want to actually blitz. We found that the sweet spot where you're getting that full sprint production is 10 days, right? What we saw, we went from having a per rep average of having about, our average rep that's kind of gone through training doing about 3 or 4 sales a month. Well, what happened is that they were doing that within the 10 days, right? So you explode your per rep average. What we saw was that, the average rep would earn, on a blitz at a minimum of 10K, and that's regardless of your experience level, which we'll talk a little bit more about as we talk about the different types of blitz models. But you average a minimum of 10K. If you could tell a new rep, whatever their experience level is, or an experienced rep, hey, you're guaranteed to make a minimum of 10K by focusing 10 days of just intense activity and production, right? Well, you're pretty sold on that concept, right? And it's really easy to get people bought in. It's a really strong recruiting tool as well.
And learning curve, right? Why are these people able to make 10K out of the gate? Why are we putting them out there? Because obviously they're getting immersed in the culture, right? You're putting them into your system and they're getting a lot of exposure to that practice day after day after day.
Right.
Okay?
And so, for me, I think one of the most impactful things that come from blitzing is team cohesion, okay? What I mean by cohesion is it's really like the relationships that you have. Guys, when you get put in a house, an Airbnb, that's how we like to do it. We put our teams in Airbnbs, right? Now you're living with someone, right? Now you have no choice where if you're working in a local office, right? Maybe the conversations, the relationship building that you're doing is a little bit more surface level, right? Hopefully you have a great culture. You're doing things outside of the office, but you're forced to really get to know people in a really, really intimate way by living with them. And so what we saw is that and this is, again, a part of the retention, is that people felt so comfortable that they're like with their family, right? You're living with these people on a consistent basis when you're blitzing.
And you touched on it, cohesion, relationships, culture, they're all kind of similar, right, in that sense. But creating a culture, obviously, for the team to flourish in, right? One that they know that's going to be repeated, right? They know that they're going to succeed, that they have a designated time to perform. That was huge. It's been huge for us. So
yeah, and when we say culture, right? A company's culture is not the cool things that you see on Instagram, the fun that you're having, right? The culture is its productivity, right? It's its productivity, and the fact that when you're blitzing and everyone's winning, everyone's eating, right? It just amplifies it, 10x's your culture really quickly, right? And it affects all these things that we're talking about on why you guys actually go and blitz.
I feel like I'm in a call center with this thing on. I want to take some calls, dial out. So I'm going to talk about organizing a little bit, okay? So this is some of the stuff that's not really on the surface of blitzing. For those of you that are like sales managers and run teams, this is some of the stuff that you don't really see until you've done blitzes a handful of times, right? Like our first blitz, like everybody else, you're probably just like, let's go to Vegas. Everyone just rolls out, crushes doors. And that's very common for the first time, right? And you have success that way. But to repeat it, what are some things you have to kind of consider, right? So first thing is roster, right? When you have a group of people together, how do you put them in a particular location and make sure that you have that sense of cohesion, that culture, those relationships? There's a lot of things to consider, right? When putting together a group of, we have about 35 or so, some odd people that run with the blitzes, and so putting 35 people together in one central location, we've got to consider what type of personalities we have, right? You've got guys like Nick, guys like me, we're a little bit different, right? Nick's more high energy than me. I'm more analytical, right? So we're always strategic about what personalities we're putting together. The other thing is gender, right? We live in kind of a, door to door is a little bit more male dominated, right? But obviously like females on stage or females in general in door to door can crush. So you have to be careful though when you're putting people in there, what kind of personalities you have when you're mixing it up with the different genders, right? And then performance. You always want to have a white rabbit in your houses, right? You always want to have somebody in the house that can produce at a high level. If you put all your producers in one house, it gets kind of demotivating, right? So you got to split your teams really well from a performance standpoint. So
super important, guys, right? Even like you want to, and really in the different houses, you want to have the houses like competing against each other, and that's about the performance piece, right?
Mm-hmm. So locations. So how do you pick a blitz location, right? Well, relative to solar, kind of speaking a little bit more specifically to solar, some of the back end stuff that we look for. So one of the first things we consider when picking a location is permit time. How quickly can we get those jobs installed, right? Cash flow is everything. Already talked about it. It's the first thing I think about when I'm, looking to see what we can do for guys is how can we get more cash in hand? So permit time is probably the first thing you start with on the back end. Then you have to consider though the demographic, the customer response. That's the thing that the sales reps or that, if I'm out hitting doors, that's what I concern myself with, right? What kind of response am I getting from those customers? So you got to cross-reference the short permit times with territories that your guys flourish in, right? Hispanic communities, English-speaking communities, what have you. You're going to cross-reference those areas with where can I get the fastest install, right? And then housing availability. So if you're considering sending 35 people to a location, you got to figure out if there are houses there that you can put guys up in. Does it make financial sense to put all of your team up in a particular location? Hotels are very different than Airbnbs in terms of cost. You don't want to really get into hotel, in my opinion, you don't want to get into the hotel experience because the guys are separate. You're not building the camaraderie. All that stuff that we talked about with culture goes down, gets watered down if you don't have the opportunity to get the guys together, okay?
Yeah, and then kind of one of the unique opportunities you have as a business owner, right? Things that we're actually doing as a team is actually purchasing blitz houses in the areas that you're going to be blitzing in. Right? If you're an owner and you have a business, you buy a house there for tax purposes, diversification on your portfolio for your business, all these things, right? Instead of paying the Airbnb, now you're paying the house, right? The business, basically the house that you own, monthly on those blitzes, right?
And if you guys are blitzing in a location and you haven't bought a house, let us know. We'll buy the house. You guys can blitz there. Proximity to turf, this stuff kind of comes naturally, right? You're gonna get a house that's local to the turf that you're hitting. Sleeping arrangements, if everybody that's been on a blitz knows it. We're kind of blitzing right now here at this event. We got 13 of the team here, and we're all in one place, right? You get used to that type of stuff, but you got to be prepared for a different setup. And then communication with the host, your Airbnb host. There's a lot of back end stuff that comes by way of having 15 savages in a home. Sometimes that energy gets itself spilled into the actual environment at home, and you have to deal with some of that backlash. You got to be kind of prepared for that too. Incentives. So what do you do? Like what kind of things do we run? So the competitions, obviously goes without saying. We like to run house competitions. We have team competitions. There's one-on-one competitions that we run to help incentivize guys to kind of keep them their mentality in the game. And then we actually put things out with spending cash. So we have benchmarks. We ran a blitz, I think 2 blitzes ago, where we had this collective unit volume that every house contributed to. So kind of put all houses together. And when they hit certain benchmarks, we released cash to each house. So each house got, some cash for groceries, which is a big thing you don't consider. Cash for team nights, so when guys do, have a solid performance in a day, in a certain span of time, they can take themselves out. So it's important to run incentives because even though they're there to perform, you still get run down. That the same things that happen on a day-to-day basis when you're not blitzing are still, impacting the mindset. So for those that are actually paying for these things, right, running the blitzes, what are the things you have to kind of consider on the back end, right? Well, there are costs for that, right? We talked about incentives, talk about stays. There are costs that come into that. So how do you factor that type of stuff in, right? So the couple different ways we've experimented with a fixed adder. So putting an adder in place that says, hey, there's an adder there that covers the Airbnbs, right? A simple way to do it that we've kind of adopted is just a simple per watt adder. So there's a small adder that takes place to be able to cover the cost of the Airbnb. What I typically do is I will set an adder up that covers the cost of Airbnb. Anything that's generated with installs beyond that, we take that cash and put it back into team nights and stuff like that, so that basically the team's putting themselves back in, okay? And then leadership back. So one of the things we've done recently is our leadership essentially backs their override stack backs up whatever those costs are for that. Helps in a lot of different ways, helps in accountability for leadership. It helps involve leadership in the management, the choices of where we're going to stay, how much we want to spend on things. They get away, it will help you significantly separate the rep from the leader and the mentality, right? Because they're making the decisions on, okay, how much of what I'm earning in an override do I want to spend? And that's what we're trying to shoot for, right? We're always trying to shoot for growth. How do you teach the next level to kind of start making those decisions? Last thing is scheduling. So this is kind of one piece that has recently kind of come up, right? So we run a model that you guys are going to see here in a second. Nick will talk more on it. But we run a model that's 10-10-10. So it's 10 days of blitzing, 10 days of pipeline management and free time built in there, and then 10 days of on. So you're training, getting prepared, kind of in office, ready for your next blitz. When you're running models like that and you have overlap, this is an actual calendar for us where we see different teams blitzing and how there's some overlap here. One of the things you have to balance in there, along with production, is onboardings. How do I put new reps in, right, if I'm blitzing? And when do I put them in, right? So again, Nick will talk a little bit more about our strategy, but the way we've done it is we've chosen to do it in that last 10 days so that individuals can come in, have a 10-day ramp up, and then go to the blitz and experience the impact of the production that happens with the blitz, right? So you just kind of see an example here where this essential team A, their next blitz will be 10 days from there, right? And you can see the team B, or team C, excuse me, their blitz is 10 days from this portion. So you're trying to factor in, when am I going to bring reps in so that I know I'm assigning to the team? But it's actually helped us assign onboarding specifically to certain teams. So we know who we're onboarding for. We know what type of personalities we're recruiting for in that next level. And the last thing with scheduling is team events. So look at all this overlap. When do you run a team event? How do you get all your guys together, right? How do you get everyone together if you're constantly having teams being separated? So if you run something like this where the team's always gone and they're separate, where do you run team events? And the only answer that we have for that is you have to plan way ahead for it. So one of the things that we like to do is we like to run personal growth and educational events for the team. And how do we get everybody there to partake in that growth and in that kind of education? Is we just look far enough out and we'll stretch these things out and create a gap between there where we know everybody is going to be here, so we can give everybody the opportunity to kind of experience it. Click.
Okay, so let's talk about the different types of models when we're talking about blitzing, right? So Jake just kind of touched on a lot of the 10-10 and 10 model, but we have traditional blitzes, right? Has anyone heard of it? Like an integrated blitz model is a kind of a new concept. Let me dive deep into that, right? So it's probably one of our key uniques as an organization, right? So check it out. So the goal to having an integrated blitz model, right? We're giving you guys our sauce, right? Kind of our really like the thing that we're going all in on, right? We're putting all of our chips into this model as an organization, which the goal is, right? So if you have a team that has enough where you can have 3 teams, right? 3 teams, whether it's the size of a team of 5. If you have 15 reps, right, you can have 3 teams, right? One that's blitzing 10 days out of the month at different times throughout the month, right? So as Jake kind of talked about the schedule, right? Obviously we have around 30 days in a month, right? And so if one team is blitzing 10 days out of the month, team A, team B's blitzing the middle part of the month, team C's blitzing the latter part of the month. So you have you can kind of really be strategic about the strengths of your team. Like when you're looking to try to get the most type of volume, like when you're trying to get a pop, whether it's like, you have volume commitments to your partners, right? You want to put a certain team at a certain time, right? You can put, maybe your strongest team leading off, playing lead up, right? A really strong team in the middle, right? And then you have someone batting cleanup to get that major pop at the end of the month, right? But what's really unique about the 10, 10, and 10 model, right, is that they have rotating schedules, right? So you always have a team blitzing, going out there, going hard, getting a really high per rep average production, right? You have a team that is also farming out of your local market. And so what is the 10, 10, and 10 model, right? So let me kind of give it so we have a team that's blitzing. We have a team that's focused on, we call it free/pipeline management / personal development, right? So you put standards in place for your team. As long as that your team hits all their standards, then those 10 days after the blitz is when that's when you want your team to go out there and be free, right? If you have a team that's producing and throwing down at a really high level, how cool is it for you to be able to say to them, like, just as much as you put a major emphasis on them going out and throwing down really hard for your team and your organization, let's say you put just as much focus and energy to telling them, no, you can't work. We don't want you working. Go out there and enjoy the fruits of your hard work, right? 10 days free where they can go, and that's the time to go on vacations, do really cool things like that, right? At the same time, you also have a team that's working your local market, right? So that's the 10 days that are on working, farming your local market, right? So at all times, you have a team blitzing, you have a team that's resting, and you have a team that's farming working a normal office schedule out of your local sales office, right? And so you have high performance coming from multiple different areas in your business. It's super unique. And if you have 15, 20, 30 reps, right, you can just break up the teams. You want to ideally have 3 teams in this integrated blitz model, okay? Now, traditional blitzes, right? I mean, a lot of companies, the way they like to do it is they like to run a blitz once a quarter, right? That's a good way to do it. That's kind of the way that we've done it over the past year, is that we just made sure that we scheduled out ahead of time where we're going to be focused on just at least giving our team one opportunity to go throw down as hard as they can one time, once every 3 months, right? And then summer blitzes, right? There's, obviously pest control does summer blitzes. Now a lot of companies like, out like in Texas, our boy Rick's a part of, they've mastered the summer blitz model with, over there at Pure, right? So those are all the different types of models out there in terms of blitzing. But for us, the integrated blitz model, if this is something that you haven't conceptualized yet as a team, I'm telling you, go out there and test it. It will absolutely blow up your business. Okay, so daily structure. So there's so many things that you can do when you're blitzing to incorporate unique different structures throughout the day. For us, we've really more coined blitzing as like personal development camps, right? This is where you're really shaping and sculpting the culture and identity of your teams and your offices, right? And so for us, we're waking up as a team. I don't know if any of you guys have seen me on my social media. Bryce, he posted a lot of it, right? It's like 15 of us in the morning. We wake up, we're in the gym, right? Planet Fitness, LA Fitness, whatever it is. But we're out there, we're getting prepared, we're getting the endorphins flowing to go out there and crush the day. There's no better way to have, because when you're blitzing, right, there's so much energy and focus that's needed, right? Like you have your phone on Do Not Disturb, you're just focused on production. In order to carry that level of intensity throughout the day, you need to have a pick-me-up. And the best pick-me-up is working out, getting your juices flowing throughout the day, right? One of the things that we're doing that's really unique, right after we exercise, we get home, a lot of us, we're eating breakfast together, but then before our correlation meeting, what we're doing is we're doing a book study, right? We're throwing on, Grant Cardone, 10X Seller Resold, Mini Habits, Tribal Leadership, right? These are all different types of books that we've listened to while we're at our blitzes, that our team's listening to, sharpening their mind, right, before they even get into sales meetings, right? And then obviously we have, our meetings, our correlations, our trainings, right? During our meetings, practice pitching, right? Sharpening the tool, right? And then we're throwing on Knockstar University, MOD Sales University, Voltaic University, right? Door-to-door University. We're watching content so that throughout the next 10 hours that we're out there in the field, right, we're ready, we're prepared, right? So there's so many different unique ways you can do it. Some days, right, what we like to do, we plan ahead. Like we pick a couple days within the 10 days that we're blitzing where we intentionally within those days, like we just do a team barbecue in the middle of the day, right? There's so many unique ways and this is where you get creative as a sales manager and a sales leader, right? On how to, it's up to you, the identity that you want to have for your team, right? The culture, you know your team better than anyone. You know the things that your teams like to do, right? If you're out by a lake or you're by the ocean, you're planning really unique things that you're doing that's team bonding, that's building your culture, that's building your team, right? Where people want to work where they love, they want to work with people they love being around, right? And so people love being around, how do you build bonds and get really close? Well, it's through experiences, right? And when you're experiencing really cool and unique things together, right, and you incorporate that into your blitz structure and your daily structure, right, you've solved the problem of losing reps, right? When you're blitzing and people are producing, they're fun, they're having fun, they're absolutely more productive, right? You don't have, your per rep average is through the roof, your culture is through the roof. So the daily structure is one of the really unique things that we like to just get really excited and creative with.
Last couple things we'll jump into, guys. We only have a couple more minutes left. We'll take some questions. Some of the intangible stuff, right? Some of the hurdles that you run into that kind of come up on the back end. Some of that stuff under contributions, you have personality conflicts, right? If you have one person on a team that's out there crushing, and you got other people on the team that are back at the house early, or they're out late, or they're not performing, there are some personality conflicts that you're going to develop as a result of having those same people in the same house, right? You get behavioral conflicts. You have 15 plus people living together in the same house. It's like an episode of Real World, right? So these guys, you get a lot of opportunity for potential conflict there. But again, you're learning that as you go. And that's part of what we talked about before, right? Trying to be proactive, considering the rosters, considering personalities, kind of as you set them up.
No, it's so spot on. I mean, everyone's seen Jersey Shore, right? Obviously, you don't want to have all the partying aside, but just the different personal conflicts that come up, right? While you're blitzing, it's funny, right? It's like a movie. I always said, what would be unique? I think solar deserves its own reality TV show, straight up. If all of us were casted, having a camera in a blitz house, right? And while we're out there in the field, the situations that we're dealing with, I swear, we'd be one of the top rated shows out there. I don't know, maybe I'm just biased because I knocked doors, sure. But no, I mean, it's crazy. So, but what you need, what you need in those situations, and honestly, your leadership, it's really difficult to be able to teach and coach and train your leaders to have to deal with and how to deal with these different conflicts that they have to resolve, these solutions and problems that they have to solve that you wouldn't normally have in just working out of a normal office setting, right? So it's super important that you have strong leadership in place, spread out throughout the blitz teams and the blitz offices that you have, or the blitz houses that you have, to be able to resolve these conflicts, man. So that's something to be very mindful of, when you're kind of formulating your roster and who you're putting where, who has the ability to be able to kind of de-escalate situations in the house. Because I mean, you don't think you have to teach and train people on or leaders on how to deal with situations where, the reps are frustrated about kind of people's living habits, right? People are kind of, doing weird stuff, right? And so strong leadership to be able to deal with those things. These are different challenges that you guys absolutely will run into in blitzing. And so getting ahead of that and being mindful and putting real important policies in place for your blitzes are important, right? We made a ton of mistakes, not really thinking we had to put a lot of policies in place, but now we've gotten super strict on like, okay, like kind of how we're supposed to conduct ourselves in a living situation while we're blitzing out there in the field. Does that make sense?
So that's all the content we have for you guys. We'll take a couple questions if anybody has them.
Well, like, I mean, it's the same. That's like the same issue that we face as business owners of getting people to buy into showing up to correlation, right? It's about the culture that you create. Getting people to buy in. It's you as, the business owner, you're selling the perks, which we all obviously went through. Like you telling them, hey, you can keep on doing what you're doing, spinning your wheels as a rep, not making as much as you want, or you can go and blitz and show them data. Like, hey, look, this is what people experienced while blitzing. They made a rep that wasn't blitzing prior to starting blitzing was only making an average of like 6K a month. Now they started blitzing and now they're making 12K a month, right? Show them. That's what's going to get buy-in to your teams, to your reps. If you can tell, your reps, would you hey, are you open-minded to going and making 15 grand in 10 days? Well, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. Right. So just kind of getting their buy-in.
I think that's a fantastic idea. So not the blitz model is particularly, running a consistent blitz model, especially a monthly blitz model. It's tough for all demographics to contribute to, right? I've got 3 kids. I can't leave for 10 days. Or my wife will bury my body, right? I can't do it month over month over month. So blitzing really is, as we've talked about, is really just about focusing on just production for a short period of time. So that doesn't have to be miles or states away from where you are, right? You can take a team and say, we're going to start earlier and end later, or we're going to set up smaller teams within that unit. We're going to mix it up right in that way. So it's not necessary to do it traditionally and just send them far. The struggle that you'll have is that people will have a tendency to want to cut early, right? I mean, you have your own rhythms in your territory, right? You typically knock for a certain amount of time and you go home. So the struggle will be that. So the obstacles that you'll face will be a little bit different than the obstacles that you face putting 15 people in the same house, right? But if you get them far enough away, they don't go home, right? That's kind of why blitzing in a different location is typically the way to start. But absolutely get creative with it. If you get production from it, then it's worth the move for sure.
Yeah, I remember the first blitz we ever ran, right, was actually, we're an LA-based team, where the bulk of our team is. Right. We ran it in literally the Valley, and that changed everything about our organization. We were in a competition against another company. Some of the guys are in this room, right? Took us to the next level, man. It was really cool. And we were right there in our local market. So, but like Jake said, you run into a different set of challenges, but as long as you kind of get in front of them, you're proactive, you can mitigate those.
For me, it's leadership. Yeah, for me, it's leadership. It's what is the bandwidth of that leadership. You need strong presence within each household. The decision making with regards to conflict resolution and performance, you got to kind of gauge that a little bit. I think we typically will run Airbnbs don't want to host more than 10 people in a home kind of thing. That's probably the max, and that really is logistically how many personalities you can kind of control and kind of shuffle and move on a chessboard, right, at any given one. So
I'd say just to kind of I'd say the sweet spot is around 12 people per team.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's all the time we have, guys. If you guys have questions, though, we'll definitely take them for you off to the side. So thank you.
A huge round of applause.